Who's wrong and who's wronger? In this corner, followed by millions, James the Exploding Unicorn Breakwell. And in that corner, ignored by millions, Steve Dash Rinko Levers.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a semi-impromptu version of Wrong and Wronger, where we're not recording Friday, as we decided we were always going to do. We're not even recording Saturday, which we have been apt to do. We are recording on Sunday because we're busy guys with a lot going on, and it's all rock star, celebrity, movie star, A-lister level stuff, Break. Well, what do you got going on today?
I got you, man. I blocked out this spot for the famous and way too busy Steve Olivas. I booked you days in advance, cleared and re-cleared this with you. I was going to ask if I woke you up, but I see that half an hour ago you were tweeting you're up and about, trudging across the frozen tundra to the alternate bathroom in your auxiliary mansion. You just don't have time for me.
I tell you, usually when we record, well, now all of them are kind of wonky times because we don't have a rhythm yet, but I will set an alarm for 5 minutes before just to remind me to get everything together and ready to go. And I didn't set the alarm, James. Maybe, as Sigmund Freud might suggest, I have a subconscious desire to never talk to you again.
Well, I don't know if it's so much subconscious as it is overt and clearly obvious. But hey, you know what? If you think this is subtle, by all means, I'm not here to burst your bubble. I'm just delighted that we made this happen after all. Because for a second, I thought you were going to ghost me, and that kind of hurt my feelings.
I did ghost you. You called me to figure out where I was. So my ghosting process was interrupted by Breakwell's diligence.
So what do you have going on today that you are too busy for me, the most important person in your life?
Well, Mrs. Steve has been out of town for a few days, so when you called, I was actually making the bed. So when she comes in, it looks like I'm a normal and, I don't know, civilized human being, which I'm not while she's out of town. So that's where I was after trudging across the frozen tundra back and forth because nature was calling, and it doesn't use the same phone that Breakwell calls on.
Wait. So you have a bathroom in your main cabin, correct? And you are the only occupant of that main cabin.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So when nature called, instead of using the bathroom inside the structure you were already in, you chose to layer up, go across the frozen hellscape to the alternate cabin. What horrific thing were you doing in the bathroom that it could not happen in the main cabin?
First of all, I didn't layer up from the waist down. As I tweeted, I had on a winter coat because it's cold, and then I've got duck boots that are furry and lined that zip up, but I just sort of slid my feet into those and took off. So I was wearing underpants, trudging back and forth across the frozen tundra. But it's not what I was about to do. It's what apparently has already been done that prevented me from answering the call in the main cabin. And I appreciate you feigning ignorance, Breakwell, but I did notice you liked the tweet where I explained several days ago what was going on at the main cabin. So how dare you for trying to bait me into this conversation?
You know what? I completely forgot. Because when I checked to see if you had blown me off or made some excuse, I did send you a text saying, try not to drown in poop before then. So, but I forgot. Then I saw the urgency and the waddling, and that horrific image just kind of drowned things out in my mind. So I guess this is the most rattlesnake ranch of all your disasters. I mean, it's just so on brand. So why don't you go ahead and share with the people again what you got going on?
I don't know whose fault it was. I'm not going to point fingers, but I will say that Mrs. Steve was home all day Thursday. She left town Thursday. So when I got home from the office Thursday, I actually peed indoors because, as aforementioned, I am a civilized and dignified human being. And when I flushed, nothing happened. And I thought, well, I mean, the water came in, but it didn't go down like it's supposed to. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. So I got the plunger out and started plunging, and noticed that the water was gurgling in the shower and in the sink next to me. So I thought, well, that's a strange phenomena to have when one is plunging one's toilet. So I let it sit for a minute, and the water eventually sort of eked or seeped out. So then the bowl was empty, but it didn't refill. So I flushed again. And again, after time, the water seeped out. And after a while, the water didn't seep out anymore. So I started plunging furiously, thinking this is not good. And what that ended up doing was driving raw sewage backwards and up into the shower. And Mrs. Steve, because she's out of town, I texted her, the septic is clogged. And she said, well, how do you know it's septic that's backing up into the shower? And I said, well, mostly little particles of poop, but there's probably other evidence that I'm overlooking. So that kind of sealed that. But today, I finally have a moment. And in addition to making the bed, I will be going to the Walmart in town. And yes, the article "the" has to be in front of Walmart when you're out here. And buying a 25-foot snake. And I'm going to give it an attempt to snake it from the toilet end, which I've got a buddy, Bill Sievert, who is a septic guy, and he said, there's a 90-degree in there that I don't think you're going to get past, but give it a shot. The best thing to do is to snake it from the septic end. And I said, well, Bill, remember last year when you told me to get an extender so that the lid would be above ground? He said, yeah, because he called me that night to talk a little deer hunting and give condolences. I said, I had every intention of doing it and then didn't. So the lid to my septic is 2 feet below ground, and I would prefer not to dig in frozen tundra to get it. And he said, yeah, well, give it a shot, but I think you're going to have to call a guy. So to avoid calling a guy, I'm going to give the snake a shot and try to get it past the 90-degree curve or angle or whatever the elbow is called in the pipeline to try to reach whatever the clog happens to be.
Okay, I need you to help me understand part of the story, because I'm not as quick as you. So you are a man of letters, a psychologist with multiple degrees, big education, right?
Sure.
How many courses in the course of your psychology degree and master's, and maybe doctorate, in the course of all of that, I guess you are a doctor. You must have got a doctorate. In the course of all of that, how many of those courses were about plumbing?
Let me think. So I went to Marquette for a while, and then Wisconsin, Oklahoma. None.
Okay, so you are not a certified plumber. You are not. You have no education in the field of plumbing, and now you have
barely an amateur plumber. Yes.
And now you have sewage backing up into your house so that the toilet is unusable, making your house uninhabitable. And your solution, as a psychologist and a very much non-plumber, is to try to tackle this issue yourself, rather than calling the people whose very job is to deal with this exact emergency.
Yeah. No, no, that tracks.
Okay, just making sure we're on the same page. What is the downside of calling a plumber? Walk me through that. What are we avoiding here?
Well, this is not a plumber. There are septic tank guys that do this, because last time this happened, a year ago, when my buddy Bill, who lives in Wisconsin, said, yeah, you need an extension so they don't have to dig every time they go in there. And I said, got it, buddy. And then I didn't do it. So the septic guys, because we are rural, and here is another, this isn't a first world problem, this is a rural world problem. The nearest septic guy is about 45 minutes away. And last year, what we did was we went to the Country Music Stars family, who turned me on to their guy, who's a little over an hour away. And because they have to bring a backhoe with them to dig, so they don't have to use shovels and pickaxes to try to get, the backhoe is like one scoop, and they're able to get to our septic. But it was about, they added $100 just to come out because of the diesel fee to get from where they're at to where I'm at. And then they add it was to pump out, and actually it was just a clog of toilet paper in the line, which is why I'm hopeful that my snake will work. They dug it out, they sucked out the one, we've got a real septic tank at the main cabin, and then a 55-gallon drum at the small cabin. They had to locate both, and then they sucked them both out so that neither one had much in it, because they actually work, the septic tanks. But the point is, that was $600. So the answer to your question is financial.
I see. And so you think that you will cause less than $600 in damage with this snake. That is the thinking.
That is the thinking. Now, Mrs. Steve would probably prefer to be here to supervise what's going on, but I think, Breakwell, I got this. And worst case scenario, she calls the guy tomorrow, and then on like Thursday they'll come out. The problem in the meantime is we have no water, because all the water, including the sinks, the washer and dryer, and the shower, all of it goes through the same pipe to get to the septic tank. So we can't use anything right now in the main cabin. So if we have to wait till, say, Thursday when the guy can get here, it's going to be rather inconvenient, particularly for Mrs. Steve, who, because of God's plumbing issues, can't just stand on the back porch and pee when she has to go, if you know what I'm saying.
Why does the clean water go through your septic tank?
I don't know, because in the small cabin, the gray water bypasses that 55-gallon drum. So the shower and all of the sinks, they have a separate pipe that goes out to, I don't know if it's a leach field or what they call that. In the main cabin, everything empties into the 1,000-gallon septic tank.
But you're saying it doesn't just empty into it. You're saying that you're not getting water, that this water has to come in through the septic tank.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We get water in. That's not the issue. It's that once it's in, it's our water, and it doesn't go away.
Okay. Wow. This is a conundrum. This is you've managed to make your house more unlivable before. I thought maybe the breaking point would be the rattlesnakes or the hornet nests the size of a man, the packs of roving coyotes, but no.
Yeah.
It wasn't even the haunted grave on a hill. It was the total lack of water. Well, I do have one solution to all your problems. 4 letters. You want to guess what that is?
I would prefer you tell me, because I'm out of ideas on this end.
I'm going to go with move. I think there comes a point where you got to throw in the towel. And as delighted as I am by every subsequent disaster that comes up, it's come to the point that I'm honestly afraid one of these times I'm going to call because you didn't call me on time, and you're not going to answer because you're going to be frozen to death because the water's going to be out, the power's going to be out, and it's finally God will have reclaimed the top of that hill where man was clearly not meant to exist.
You know, we've talked, again, this is like when my buddy Bill said, you need an extender, and I said, got it. Mrs. Steve said, we need a wood-burning stove in here in case the power goes out. And I said, got it. And we don't got one yet.
Gotcha. So anything necessary for survival is on the to-do someday list.
Well, in my mind, there's other more pressing matters that also never get attended to. And so I don't know. I just pay for everything. And somehow all the money goes away, but nothing ever gets done. It's quite a deal.
Well, I can relate. I've been actually having my own issues this week with some water-based appliances. Now, granted, our sewage only goes out rather than in, but I've talked about our dishwasher before. You know, I don't hire a plumber for that. I hire an electrician. I had him come out 3 times, and after the last time, he was like, it's beyond my power. I did what I could do, and if it doesn't work again, you just got to replace it. And now, currently, about every other time I try to run it, I have to go downstairs and flip a circuit breaker. And sometimes I flip it once, and sometimes I flip it 9 times, and sometimes I flip it in a random pattern. I don't know exactly what makes it work, but if I flip it for long enough, it will eventually work again. So I obviously this isn't sustainable, and every time I go and look, I have my brother-in-law, my electronics guy, say, go find me a deal on a dishwasher, and he found one, and it's going to be between $750 and $1,000. And my fear is I'm going $1,000 is the best dishwasher ever, and $750 is a really good dishwasher. I think ours is $400, so we got on clearance somewhere. My fear is that it actually is somehow electrical, because it keeps flipping this breaker. We're going to put in this new one, and we're going to have the same issue. But every time I'm like, all right, that's it. This is the final time. It won't turn on. I go and flip the breaker one more time, and it turns on. So it works just enough that I don't want to spend that $1,000 to replace it for, the best dishwasher ever that probably won't work. On top of that, I work from home, so it's real easy for me to, throw in a load of laundry here and there. And I've been doing it just fine. I've been doing it for a long time, because before this I was working hybrid, so I'm home more than my wife. I do the laundry. I've got this thing locked down. I am a modern man who is great at doing laundry. until my wife watches me. And so she watched what I was doing the other day, and I would fill up this cap a little bit of the way and pour detergent in there. Because we've got one of these, like, it's like a 5-gallon bucket of laundry detergent she buys as a fundraiser from somewhere, and you pump it out. So I would pump some into a cap and do that anyway. Apparently, she was appalled by the quantity, and she showed me how she does it. And she pumps it into a smaller bucket, and then she just pours it directly into the dishwasher. Not the dishwasher, the washing machine. Apparently, don't wash your clothes in the dishwasher. That will cause problems. So apparently, I misinterpreted what she did, because I thought she was telling me I wasn't using enough detergent. And so the way she poured it looked to me like she put in way more detergent than I did. So like over the next couple of days, I tried to run a couple loads of like towels that I used to soak up my dog's pee because he's awful. And like it took all day. Like it would run and it was just full of suds. And I ran it again and it was still full of suds. And I turned it up to like super water, super spin. It would like one load of towels took me like 12 hours to run to get rid of all the bubbles.
Wow.
And apparently she was telling me to use less detergent, not more. And when she went and poured it directly in the machine, she was putting the thinnest layer just to cover the bottom, and I thought she was filling it all the way up to the max fill line. So there was a gross misinterpretation. The point being, if she would have just left me alone with my bottle cap, none of this would have ever happened, and I would have been using slightly too much rather than a million times too much. So here's the lesson. My dishwasher's haunted, and everything's my wife's fault. And we can take that away. And that's just much like you and your septic system, where it mysteriously broke when she was home and you were nowhere in the vicinity.
Wow, that's I'm glad you boiled it all down to a single sentence for us who were listening to that story, because that really put a fine point on what I thought you were saying. So I tell you, we marry these women, James, and I don't know. It seems like we get along just fine, putting like all the different colors in the wash machine, using the dryer as a dresser, letting dishes pile up on the sink for a while before sticking them in the dishwasher and then forgetting to turn it on. All of that seems like we have a rhythm with it. And then they want to go and organize things and make sure the towels are folded a certain way. Make sure the bed is made, as I get back to the first point that I made in this call. And turn us into human beings that I don't know that grog and the troglodytes actually needed to be. We talked about beards last week. Deep inside, we're all cavemen, James.
We are, and much like, you know, when the old world met the new world and Columbus sailed over, the quote-unquote attempts to civilize people seldom ends well. Pretty soon everybody's dead from smallpox and everyone's upset.
Yes.
If we had just been left in our natural state, everything would be fine and the plumbing would still work. That's what I'm saying.
I will say, though, I have noticed, and it's taken me decades of marriage to notice, life is a little easier with two of us instead of one of us. Like, for example, it's easier to reproduce when there's a second person involved. But just little things like calling the guy. Like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I was packed all day. I didn't have time. And even if I would have called the guy, I couldn't meet him anyway. And I didn't have time to go buy a snake and try that out. I'm tired when I get home, and so I was going to wait till today. And now here I am recording with Breakwell, which, despite being delightful for Judy P., does very little to solve my septic issue.
Are you
But
saying...
what was I going to say? Oh.
Is this not
having a second person.
Okay. This should refill your social battery. After you talk to me, you should be fired up and ready to take on the world, and in fact be 10 times more productive than before, because I am your ultimate cheerleader. I might be cheering for your destruction, but I am cheering. And as you hear that rallying cry, I hope it motivates you to new and greater heights.
James, you're rooting for a team, as far as my demise goes, that's strong as the New England Patriots 5-8 years ago, as strong as the Bulls in the 90s, as strong as the Yankees in 1927. The team that is responsible for my demise is a juggernaut that's almost unbeatable.
My favorite part about all of this is as your bathroom is literally covered in your own sewage, you think you're going to impress your wife by making the bed. Like, break that down for me. How does one balance the other?
I am assuming, because I bet on Steve, that the plumbing issue will be resolved by the time she gets home. And at least 40% of the poop will be gone.
That is some poop. I will concede that point. In the meantime, you have been enjoying the second cabin. Why don't you just move into the second cabin since everything seems to be honky-dory over there?
Well, when Mrs. Steve gets home, that problem might take care of itself. Yeah.
That is good. You have your own separate spaces. That's a marriage saving arrangement there. You can live together apart indefinitely. I've seen people say that, 2 bedrooms is the key to a good marriage, and the older I get, the more wisdom I see in that. You can have your together time and you can have your apart time, and the older you get, the more important that apart time is, so nobody kills anybody else.
I always say square footage and 2 televisions. That's the key to a successful marriage. Yes.
I can see that. When my wife and I hang out for our date nights now, man, it's a 3-screen operation sometimes 4. I'll play Xbox. And then I have my phone beside me, too, in case that's not enough. And then also there's a laptop between us for our shared activity that we watch on that. Well, she's watching a separate laptop, which often has the pattern she's following for her cross-stitch thing. And then she has her own phone as well to answer pressing work questions, because she's never really off work all the way. She is a person of great importance, which is kind of the opposite of me. So between us all there, I guess, 2 laptops, 2 phones, and 1 TV. That's 5 screens for 2 people, and that is almost enough screens to make the evening go smoothly.
That is as intimate of a date night as I have ever heard, and I've been doing couples therapy for many years, James.
I just show me the downside. There's no way we can fight because we are so distracted by so many other things. That is the key to harmony. We couldn't be mad at each other if we wanted to be, because there's no proof the other person is even there.
Well, and that's just the way she likes it. If I'm not mistaken, she tried to get that written into your wedding vows.
This is true. She would have been okay if we were married and, lived in different states. But I was like, you know what? We got to be in the same general vicinity. And 4 kids later, I'm not so sure she agrees with that anymore. Being near me is a dangerous arrangement, Steve. It leads bad places.
I was pregnant when I visited you last time. It was really a weird thing.
Yeah, that is the downside of being near anyone in my family. A long line of very fertile Catholics. But you know what? The world needs more of me, so that's okay. My kids are pretty awesome. And at the moment they're out of the house, so we have this brief window to record here, which we had to carefully schedule. Your kids are out of the house too. At the moment, we're both empty nesters, although mine's only for an hour, and yours is forever. You've achieved the dream.
Is your wife gone too?
No, she's 3 floors away, so she might as well be. Again, Steve, we talked about this, the physical separation. It's a big house for 2 people. Yeah, that attic bedroom is the best thing we ever did. The fact that when we do hang out with our 5 screens, it's like we're in a separate apartment. We close that door. The kids aren't going to go up an extra flight of stairs. It is like we are childless, and that is an amazing transformation. But yet you can still open the door to yell down 2 floors below and frighten all of your children. It is the best of all worlds.
Sure.
Now, I would have to say, if you were deciding between living in 2 cabins or living in 1 house with 3 stories, I think the 3-story house is the way to go, especially since in the 3-story house, the sewage seems to flow in the right direction.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Down. Get that extra help from gravity. Maybe that's your problem. You've just got the 1 story there. The poop can't get any momentum when you flush. It needs to fall from a greater altitude.
That could be. And Mrs. Steve had the gall to imply it was my fault. She said, I did 2 loads of laundry before I left, and everything worked just fine while I was there. I don't know what she was talking about, because clearly everything was askew. And I will stand by that, Breakwell.
You know what? I think I have a solution for your problem to stop this from ever happening again. If the issue is toilet paper, if you have weak, tiny pipes that can't handle toilet paper, you, sir, need to invest in a bidet. It works on water
Oh.
pressure. They're like $60. Amazon can have it to you tomorrow. I have them installed on 2 of our 3 toilets, and it is the greatest thing I have ever done. It will reduce your toilet paper consumption by about 90% and solve this
I'll be
problem once and
darned.
for all. And it will only use a little bit of water, but you don't have a well. You have city water, that's right. So it will increase your water bill ever so slightly, but decrease your plumbing bill by 1,000%.
And if you turn the pressure up too high, do you open your mouth and water comes out?
Yeah, you know what? I have some self-control. It has not happened. We haven't had any disasters, but we don't have it installed on the main bathroom the kids use. So I don't know what that would. They use the bathroom downstairs some. They don't touch those scary dials on the side. They don't know what's going to happen, and I would just like to keep that fear in them. So I am not here to educate them on the finer things in life.
All right. Otherwise, he'd be like a Pez dispenser for bidet water. That would be an interesting fountain.
I got it back in COVID when they're like, there's a toilet paper shortage. It's like, you know what? We're going to be covered. If this is the end of the world and there is never another square of toilet paper anywhere, we will be clean. And that is what I did. I don't provide for my family often, but I got that. And you know what? That water still goes out of the house. So things are pretty okay over here.
Well, on that high note, as Breakwell smugly says when he flushes, it goes downhill. I don't know how many of you can say the same thing. Breakwell lives in that whole other world of the 1% unicorns. But until we meet again, when we can get together and talk about plumbing issues and how the ranch has resolved theirs and nothing has gone wrong in the last week, this is Steel Davis, Dr. Steve, almost a master plumber, for James, giving advice to someone who knows way more than him about plumbing. Breakwell saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Don't flip the circuit breaker on your dishwasher, and remember, as always, 2 wrongs can make a right.